Hello, everybody. This is episode 7 of Podcasa Bonita. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Shirley, and I wanted to do a cooler intro, but Rachel is a piece of shit, and she won't let me. So.
I said you could, I just wouldn't do it with you.
That's why you're a piece of shit. Welcome to our shit show.
Yes. We were actually very excited. One of our lovely subscribers commented on one of our videos and asked a question, so we will be answering him at the end of our video today.
So we're going to make you listen to the whole thing to hear your question. We also have some, special announcements at the end, so stay tuned. But without further ado, we're just going to hop right in.
Yes.
To season 7. That's technically, one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah, really good.
I forget how much I love this season until I go back and watch it. I'm like, damn, these are some good-ass episodes.
Yes, I had such a good time watching this season.
All right, you ready to start? We'll start off with the first episode, which I think we always do. Here's episode 1, Canceled.
Aired March 19th, 2003.
Lifting plot and scenes off the episode, Cartman gets an anal probe. The boys soon learn that Earth is actually a reality show for aliens, and they attempt to save it from cancellation. So, first off, I want to say, this is one of the best written and best, concepts of it. I think this concept, the story of the show is so clever.
Yeah, I love it.
And, this was actually supposed to be the 100th episode, but they had no ideas besides this, or fuck it, it's just the first episode of the season. We'll do something else for the 100th episode.
Yeah, and I think Earth being this intergalactic reality TV show makes total sense,
It does. Oh my gosh. And that's why I think it's so clever, because I'm like, yeah, I get it. I can totally see aliens, Jewsians,
And I can tell that this one was going to be the 100th episode, because they have a line in the episode that says, a show should never go past 100 episodes, or else it starts to get stale with ridiculously stupid plot lines and settings. Well, they said while they were in space.
Exactly. But, yeah, this episode, I feel like nobody really talks about how good this episode is. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I remember the first time I watched this one, the beginning, where they were reacting to Cartman gets an anal probe scene, freaked me out so much. I was like, what's happening?
I remember, I think I watched, before I got into the show, as heavy as I am now, I think I watched this episode before I watched Cartman gets an anal probe and everything. So I was like, this is kind of weird. I don't remember, did this happen in another episode? Then I finally watched Cartman gets an anal probe. I'm like, oh, I get it. I gotcha. I get it now. Get the joke.
I think one of my favorite...
Huh?
Oh, no, you go.
You have
Oh, okay, alright. Okay, I'm gonna say that one of my favorite scenes, and the best example of Matt and Trey pounding a joke into the ground, is the part where Cartman keeps farting at Kyle's finger, and it goes on forever.
They do that so much. They do that in Team America with the vomiting scene.
Right.
I think we're talking about next season podcast.
Yes.
And they did that with Jimmy singing "Oh Holy Night."
Yeah.
But they do that a lot, and see, it's the kind of thing where it's funny at the beginning, and then it kind of stops being funny, and then they push it even farther, and then it's funny again.
Yeah, exactly. That always works.
Prime example.
And then my one last little tidbit was I loved the whole joke where they say that Kyle has Jewsian ancestry, and then Cartman's like, oh, you don't say. And I was thinking that, I wonder if the aliens in this episode are stereotypically Jewish coded to parody the Star Wars prequels, because I've heard that there's, some racism in those prequels where, a lot of the aliens are, clearly supposed to be about Jewish people, and it was kind of racy at the time, so I don't know, do you think that was on purpose?
I have no idea what the fuck that is.
Oh, do you not like Star Wars?
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, see, you're just jealous because I had the tidbit this time, or the fun fact.
Hey, I had a fun fact. This is supposed to be...
Okay, sorry.
But literally anybody who listens to Matt and Trey's commentaries will know I just steal their fun facts.
Oh my god, you're so unoriginal.
Not original.
Alright, wanna go on?
Yeah, well, first,
Okay.
let me say I absolutely love the Juzians. I know we talked about them before, but I think Suck My Jag On. I want to use that so bad, but in a context where someone else gets the joke,
right?
And no one's gotten the joke. No
I'm probably the only one in your life who would ever get that.
Let's go suck some Jag-ons and hop into Crazy Kripples.
Okay. Aired March 26, 2003.
Timmy and Jimmy start a club for Kripples, which draws attention from the Crips, who agree to let the two join in if they kill the Crips' rivals, the Bloods.
This episode is so wild.
Meanwhile, Christopher Reeve comes to town to promote stem cell research for the handicapped. Main characters Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny don't appear in the episode's plot, but have a few cameos throughout.
I love that the boys are like, I think we should stay out of this one. They know to stay away from a topic that they don't know anything about.
See, okay, I feel like that's kind of weird that this topic is something they're like, ooh, maybe we should stay out of it, when they can, like, they won't bat an eye at, like, showing Muhammad and everything, but getting death threats.
True.
And, like, oh, this is where it's a little uncomfortable for us, and
right.
It's not okay when we, talk about Christopher Reeve. And
although I guess it is a better idea to use the disabled characters to talk about a disabled thing, have a disabled episode,
Oh yeah. I think they handle Jimmy and Timmy. I mean, I can't really say much because I am disabled, but I know that they've gotten a lot of praise from charities and certain communities within the with people who are disabled, and they say because Jimmy and Timmy aren't treated differently because they're handicapped. They aren't really used for easy jokes.
Right.
Timmy kind of was an easy joke at the beginning, but all the students treat him like they treat Jimmy and Timmy like normal, people. They don't try, at every corner point out here's the disabled kid.
There are jokes at their expense, but it's not haha, look at the disabled kid. They just use the kid to talk about the storyline, but they still don't refrain from making jokes about him though, which is because they want to be like everyone else,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, again, I'm not a disabled person, so I really can't speak for other people, but I've heard they do get a lot of praise from a lot of.
I heard that everyone loves Timmy a lot.
Yeah, everybody loves Timmy and Jimmy. Jimmy, you can't not love them. They're just so adorable. They're adorable.
Yeah, they're so adorable, which is why this episode is so weird. I can't handle them walking down the street with Crips bandanas and rap music in the background. It's so.
But one thing about this episode is is the Christopher Reeve storyline and the stem cell research. It's almost, I may be wrong, but it feels like this episode kind of makes it seem like they're against stem cell research, and I mean, maybe they are. I don't really know. I don't think they've ever technically talked about it. I'm pretty much for stem cell research. My family has a lot of medical history and everything, so I'm pretty much pro stem cell research and everything. But
yeah, I don't know.
I thought it'd be something they were for too, but I can't.
I can't really tell.
They talked about it in Kenny Dies.
Yeah.
And they talk about it here.
I don't know if this episode was them taking a stance on it. I think they were more using it as a tool to have that whole funny Christopher Reeve storyline, and the Lex Luthor guy comes in, I think it was just for that, but I don't know.
I don't know. They kind of showed it in a super negative light, it was you're playing God or something. I'm
yeah, who knows? Yeah, I kind of don't agree either, but.
Well, I guess that's kind of what they want, because you're not supposed to pick one side or the other technically.
Right.
So they're doing a good job by staying ambiguous with their views. But I thought, besides that, the Christopher Reeve the Hackman thing, the Gene Hackman, that was really funny.
I loved when Christopher Reeve called in all the supervillains and fucking Butters was there.
Professor Chaos. That just makes me even more excited for the Fractured Butthole.
Me
Whenever
too.
I see, which was supposed to be coming out this month, but no. It's
Freaking
weird to
Matt
think
Dre.
that we would have actually had it. But anyway, that's totally off topic. I think this is a really funny episode. I love it when Jimmy and Timmy get a spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's super funny that all of the main four are just ooh, let's stay out of
Yeah.
That's the first time Kyle hasn't gone on a huge ass rant.
Right.
He hasn't given his speech.
Alright, you want to go on to toilet paper?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright. This aired April 2nd, 2003.
Seeking revenge after being put in detention, the boys decide to TP their art teacher's house. However, Kyle feels guilty about this. Meanwhile, Officer Barb Brady seeks help from a juvenile toilet paperer named Josh to crack the case. So many Silence of the Lambs references in the show. They've done so many Silence of the Lambs references. Like Bebe's boobs destroy society has one. Where Cartman plays lambs.
Yeah, I love that part.
I love the movie, but they love using it.
Yeah, and they had a Godfather parody in this episode too. The scene where Cartman takes Kyle out on the lake to go murder him is a parody of that movie. I love that scene where he tries to kill Kyle with a wiffle ball bat.
I love the ones where he takes all three of them out and start feeling guilty and just one after the other like that. That is so funny.
It's
that is so Cartman to me.
I know.
They all just kind of let it happen.
And I love the way he says it when he brings Kyle out. He's like, "I'm here to kill you, Kyle, but I only have a wiffle ball bat, so it's gonna take a while."
Go with it, Kyle.
Kyle's like, "Fine, kill me. I don't care." So dramatic.
Of course, I love this because, of course Kyle would feel bad about this.
Right, it's a good Kyle episode.
Kyle would be the guilty one.
Yeah. I love how, TPing is treated as this totally serious crime, and it kind of makes sense for the course of the episode, because Kyle is, that one weak bitch in the group who isn't on board with the murder. That's totally Kyle.
I'm Kyle. I'm the one weak bitch.
But yeah, I loved Kyle's whole guilt storyline, and it pisses me off because I've seen this episode put on list of the worst South Park episodes, but I really like this one.
See, it's nowhere near my favorite. It would never be in my top lists or anything, but it's nowhere near my least favorite.
Yeah,
it's not even my least favorite of this season.
Right.
So, but there are a lot of parodies in this episode. Most of it's parody and everything.
Yeah.
But there's this one, the scene where the art teacher just is like, why? I know we laugh about that, but I've seen, even in the episode, they have a clip of the actual woman, freaking out. And I'm like, God damn, that's really fucking dark.
Right.
I'm not quite sure. I haven't checked my sources, so I don't know where the real video is from. But it's just this woman freaking out. I'm like, God, that's really dark, to
right.
really put somebody's, but a lot of parodies.
That's funny. I loved the whole story, how Mr. Barb Brady's storyline in this episode, where the little kid keeps grilling him about his past or whatever when he tries to solve the crime.
Oh yeah, I love Silence of the Lambs, so I kind of I like this episode in that regard because I'm like, I get that reference.
Yeah.
I get that. That's funny. The only way they could have made it better is if they went even farther with the Silence of the Lambs reference and had Cartman tuck his tiny little penis, walk out in front of a video camera and be like, "Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me."
Oh, the Buffalo Bill thing.
The Buffalo Bill. That'd be the only way this episode could get better. So
okay.
Yeah, I think we've rambled enough.
Yes,
let's move on
okay.
to the 100th episode. I'm a little bit country.
Aired April 9th, 2003.
The 100th episode of the series. The boys are caught in the middle of a brutal town fight between supporters of the war in Iraq and the people against it. Meanwhile, Cartman travels back in time in the late colonial era by electrocuting himself in the water.
I know that this is South Park's iconic 100th episode, but whenever I think of this one, I always think of this is the one where Cartman tries to have a flashback.
Me too. See, I'm not trying to shit on South Park, but I don't think this is I think they did a better milestone episode with 200 and 201.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like that one was more this is the 200th, but they kind of already used their 100th episode plan, so and they really don't care. This is a good episode because I love the whole Cartman trying to give himself a flashback and everything.
Yeah.
Whenever he gets
trying to tell Carmen it's not a bad idea, but, like, they don't care enough about him to actually, like, stop it, you know?
I know. It's pretty good. Like, but I think that storyline is a lot funnier than, like, the I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll.
Although I will admit that storyline has, like, pretty smart commentary about how America can have its cake and eat it, too.
It does. Like, this is a really smart episode.
Yeah.
I really do. I feel like this is truly a middle-of-the-road episode. Like, we always talk, like, South Park is a middle-of-the-road show. It doesn't lean one way or the other. But there are some episodes where it's like, okay, we're ripping on liberals. Okay, this one we're on conservatives. This one is, like, so in the middle, and I really appreciate things like that because, like, I find myself being in the middle of this issue, you know? A lot of topics I can kind of find a side, but this one I'm like, yeah, protest and go to war. Like, have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Like, I get this. I get this episode. It was a really smart episode to me.
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
Even if you don't agree, even if you are one side or the other, I feel like, you know, you can still enjoy this episode, you know, for what it is. And I feel like people who grew up with the song, with Donnie and Marie Austin, like this a lot more, because I didn't grow up with that, so I feel like people who grew up with that got a bigger laugh out of it.
Yeah. And I love the whole thing where the parents, once again, are, like, trying to force the kids into their own bullshit. And Kyle and Stan are so pissed off about it. They're like, oh, do you think kids in every town have to deal with this crap? Like, they kind of recognize that South Park's, like, totally not in the norm.
They've done that so much.
I love when they do that.
They're just like, Jesus Christ, our parents are stupid as hell.
I know.
I'm waiting for Kyle to do that in season 20.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm ready to move on.
Me too.
Oh, definitely one of my favorite episodes in this season, if not of all time. You ready?
Yes.
All right, here's Fat Butt and Pancake Head.
Aired April 16th, 2003.
Cartman's hand puppet Jennifer Lopez, or Jennifer Lopez, garnered major publicity. That was my impression. You're welcome. During a presentation about Latino culture, which enrages the real Jennifer Lopez.
My taco flavored kisses.
This is funny because, okay, the meaning behind Fat Butt and Pancake Head, like, they don't mention it in the episode at all, but the reason why it's titled this is because Fat Butt is Jennifer Lopez and Pancake Head is Ben Affleck, because apparently he has a really flat face. Like, that's true. Like, we met him at a party, and his face is flat as fuck, you know? Like, he looks like a pancake head.
I wish that they had kept him in, like, the same style as when he was in the Butt episode. That would have been so funny.
That would have been really funny. You know what stands out to me? I think this episode is so funny all around because, like, one, you obviously have, like, the Mitch Connor thing where you're like,
right.
Is Cartman fucking with us, or does he, like, really not know what's going on? It's one of those totally ambiguous moments.
Yes,
where
yes.
You just don't get it.
This episode fucked me up because of that.
But, this has, like, one of the most morbid scenes ever because literally Cartman jacks off Ben Affleck.
I know.
Twice.
Poor Cartman.
Twice this thing. Once in the car and everything, and then twice he wakes up and he's like, oh, Ben Affleck's food.
I know, I can't believe Cartman's hand had a love affair with Ben Affleck.
Like, oh my gosh, that is...
Cartman's a little asshole, but he doesn't deserve sexual abuse.
I know, like, sometimes we forget that he's 9 years old.
Right.
Like, how did they get away with this?
I mean, well, when they're cartoon kids, no one cares except you and me.
I know, nobody cares because Kenny dies all the time, so...
Yeah. But this episode... No, you go this time.
Okay. I think this episode is, like, super funny. I think, because it really is, like, the ambiguous thing where it's like, is Cartman really fucking with us? Do
Yes,
we really
yes.
believe it? And, I think the whole, Jennifer Lopez thing, I like how they kind of, like, I wouldn't know anything about Jennifer Lopez except from, like, this episode where they're just like, she just shits on people who aren't
Right.
famous. Like, oh.
I heard she was so pissed about this episode.
Yes! Another people, she was working on a movie at the time, and people, like, little, personal PAs would, like, go and be like,
shoved Trey at one point. Like, they were at this, like, party or some event, and she, like, shoved him.
After this episode, like, that is so... Like, I love how she's so offended.
I love it when celebrities get so mad.
I know, like, I love Barbara Streisand, but she got really pissed at her, you know, thing. I kind of love it when celebrities get super mad. Like, I was just like, you know what? I am fighting. I'm fighting myself. I'm fighting my internal struggle. Like, after this episode, so I just love it when celebrities can't fucking make a joke.
I know.
I like to be like Lord.
Just go with it. This episode always fucks me up, though, because it always, like, makes me believe Carmen, like, that he doesn't know what's going on, even though it's, like, it should be obvious that it's a Carmen scam, but he goes so far into it that, like, I've totally believed him.
I know. Oh, my gosh. Like, season 20. Kidding. The finale hasn't come out yet,
but we know. We all know.
Ready to move on? We've talked so much about it.
Oh, I love this next episode.
Me too. Little Crime Stoppers.
Aired April 23rd, 2003.
The boys' game of police detectives turns dangerous when Sergeant Yates hires them to bust a violent drug deal. This episode kind of takes a while to get into. It kind of has, like, two different stories to it. Like, the first part is them, like, solving this mystery and everything with the doll, and then it
evolves.
Continued in the same story, but they seem like two totally different plots and everything.
Right.
But I think they're both funny.
I think this episode is a funny parody of, like, the super serious crime shows. And I love the boys, like, really fucked up crime theories, like how, like, what happened with the old lady's pie.
In this episode, I love how it sparked, I think it's the very first episode that showed, dance! Would anybody like dance?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think this is the first time they did that. And that's one of my favorite jokes ever. I say that every single podcast. I'm like, this is one of my favorite jokes ever.
Yeah, decide, Shirley, come on.
Can't decide. They're all so good and terrible.
Right. And one of my favorite scenes is when the girl goes to describe to Kenny, like, the doll or whatever, and he just draws this big woman with, like, huge tits, and then he's, like, Kenny's Most Wanted board, and that's all there is on it, just huge ladies with huge tits.
Sometimes I forget that he's 9, because
he's such a perv.
Like, I know 9-year-olds. 9-year-olds don't want blowjobs, they want Skylanders. Like...
Kenny isn't your average 9-year-old. He dies. And then I also love, like, the second storyline where they become junior detectives and it's taken, like, so seriously. That's probably how Bonita got his job.
I think this is such a well-written episode. I think, like, this season especially is full of, like, episodes that are really well-written. Like, they may not be the funniest or anything, but they're so well-written. They, like, each story follows through, and there isn't anything, like, kind of left out to dry. Like, it's all completed and it's all just really, really good.
I also like the scene where they were, like, at the meth house or whatever, I don't even know, and they were, like, they're, like, pretending to shoot, and then Kenny's, like, and then Carmen's like, no, Kenny, it's a bang, 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 not pew, pew, pew.
Pew, 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 Kenny. I love the, Carmen doing his sign language, like, you stupid.
Yeah.
Like, making a little yarmulke out of it.
Yeah. That's funny.
This is one of those episodes where I think everybody loves this kind of episode where it's just the boys being kids and then they kind of get into stuff.
Yeah, they were so cute in their little, like, police game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're taking way too fucking long. Let's go on to Red Man's Greed.
Aired April 30th, 2003.
The town is taken over by Native Americans who want to create a superhighway to their new casino. I feel like a lot of people aren't gonna get the irony. I feel like a lot of people are just gonna see, like, yeah, Native Americans are like, haha, like, Native Americans are just as bad as we were. I'm like, no, this is just...
Yeah, right. Like, I feel like the Native Americans and the white people's roles were reversed on purpose to make a point, but other people, I feel like, don't really get that.
I feel like a lot of people, it's kind of like, I know this is stretching a bit, it's like the Jesse Jackson episode, like the Apologies to Jesse Jackson, where it talks about racism and everything. Like,
but for, like, from a white guy's point of view.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
But,
No, I agree.
But,
That's a good episode, though.
That is. I'm excited to talk about that one in a few episodes down from now. But I feel like a lot of people just kind of don't get. I mean, I guess people who lean left are always going to see the things that lean left.
Mm-hmm.
People who lean right are always going to kind of see the things that lean right. But I feel like a lot of people just won't get the irony and actually take this literally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people won't take it as a day. They'll be like, yeah, Native Americans do that. They're just as bad. Like, come on.
No, they're not. One of my favorite jokes was the Native Americans, like, weird laughter where they're like, ha, 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 ha.
I was just about to talk about that. Fun fact of this episode, I'm pretty sure if you watch the episode, you'll notice it because they pointed out. The Alex guy, like,
Yeah.
His dad won a charity auction event and everything, and they got to do a voice on South Park, and they were spending so much time like, God, who is he gonna play? Who is he gonna play? We don't have anybody for him to like play, and they're like, oh, we'll just make him that kid, you know? Like, we'll just point it out and break the fourth wall, you know?
Mm-hmm. I love the part they were like, who are you?
I love it when they break the fourth wall. I don't think they do it like way too much. They don't do it too much where it's overwhelming, but I love it when they actually break the fourth wall.
Alright, last thing I want to point out is like something I'm actually really like pumped about. It's more of Skank Hunt 42's origins, that whole thing where Gerald like loses the deed to his house and then he tries to like blame it on Kyle. and like
Gerald didn't just become
he was always an asshole.
He was always an asshole.
I noticed that watching. I was like, oh my god.
How could something so pure come out of S-Wow, Titty Bang, and Skank Hunt?
I know, Kyle's like, oh my god, Kyle's raising himself at this point.
Raising his brother too. Like,
right.
Next one is another one of my favorites. Like, there's a huge string of like really good episodes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. South Park is gay.
Aired October 22nd, 2003.
The men and boys of the town become metrosexual in response to a fad show becoming I just lost my page.
Oh, fucking Shirley.
Show becoming popular. Kyle, Mr. Slave, and Mr. Garrison try to stop the wave of metrosexuality. Kyle is treated like an outcast, while Mr. Garrison believes the fad undermines real homosexuals.
I fucking love this episode. It's so good, it's so funny, it's so right in like every point it's trying to make.
I know. See, okay, I have, it's the metrosexual thing kind of is coming back a little bit, but in straight white girls who kind of, and my friend, Brendan, who is a drag queen, he's like, a lot of people have stolen drag queen culture.
Oh.
And, like, spill the tea. The tea isn't like liquid tea. It's like tea for truth and everything. And he's explained this to me a lot because I've done this myself. Like, slay. And, like, all these originated from drag queen culture and everything.
I didn't even know that.
Like throwing shade, like that's a huge, so it's kind of like relevant now.
Yeah.
Maybe not totally gay culture, but with drag queen culture and everything. So my friend was talking about this.
Yeah, I think Kyle has grown a lot since the Chin Pokemon episode, which is kind of similar with fads and everything. Like, he still doesn't catch on to them, but I think now he knows it's better to be himself than to give in to peer pressure, which I appreciate Kyle for. I think he had a good storyline this episode.
He wasn't the first to, like, give in to Elementary School Musical or anything. He kind of stays behind in the fads, which I love him for. I feel like Matt's like that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and then
kind of know he's not into fads.
yeah.
Like that.
And then on the flip side, Mr. Garrison's storyline, I think he's totally right too about how gays like don't want to be like straight people; they just want to be them and not have straight people like pick on them all the time. And they don't want us to be the same; they just want us to be okay with being different.
Exactly. Like, I love the kind of notion that's like, okay, equality does not mean the same. Like, you can have equal rights without being the same person. That's the whole point. We can all be different people, but we can all have our equal rights.
Yes.
You can treat us like an equal. Doesn't mean I have to be exactly like you.
I think this episode does a good job too of like ripping on straight people. How straight people like always want whatever gay people have. Like how like straight people like kind of want to take their culture when gay people have like gay pride parades. They're like, oh well, we want straight pride parades. Blah, blah.
Yeah, let's have a hospital for well people.
Right.
Let's have medication for mentally sane people.
Exactly. Kind of pointing out how ridiculous that is.
Exactly. You know.
Oh, and can I say one thing?
No. Yeah. Go ahead.
Crab people.
I forget about the crab people. I don't know why I forget about the crab people. But I always talk about the crab people. I always talk about it. I just always forget it's
Right.
from.
Well, when I start this episode, I know it's like the crab people episode, but while I'm watching it, I always forget that they're coming.
I forget that they're there until they show up. I'm like, shit, this is the crab people episode. Me, I know this as Stop Stealing Gay Culture episode.
Yeah.
But most people probably know it as the crab people episode.
And I think that the people of South Park, like, I should have said this a long time ago, but they really need to work on their conflict resolution. Like, so many of them are so quick to, like, immediately murder people. I think that's the solution to their problem.
I know.
Like, their go-to.
To burn down the fucking school.
I know, he's so dramatic.
He's so dramatic.
I love Kyle. But even, like, Mr. Garrison and all the moms who, like, wanted to kill the gay guys at the end.
I love it when the moms are featured.
Me too.
I love the moms so much.
This is such a good episode.
I feel like we've covered this episode. You ready to go on?
Yep.
All right. This is a huge fan favorite. Christian Rock Hard.
Aired October 29th, 2003.
Cartman, Token, and Butters form a Christian music band, but they soon refuse to play. But they soon refuse to play live in response to their music being downloaded illegally. That's wrong.
Yeah,
That's wrong.
it's Kyle, Stan, and Kenny who do that, and then Cartman does this to win a bet against Kyle. All right.
Exactly, so Wikipedia's wrong.
You're welcome, Wikipedia. We fixed it for you.
But yeah, sorry, I have not read through these before we started recording, which I probably should do. I probably should be a better host.
Yeah, Shirley gets up your game.
Honestly, everybody knows this episode because everybody loves this episode.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too. I think Moop as a band name.
Fucking stop interrupting me.
Sorry.
Fun fact of this episode is Matt, Trey, and their friend Pam Brady, who they did Team America with, and a couple of other people, they were actually going to do the actual album. Like, they were like, yeah, let's write a bunch of songs, but have it progressive, like as the thing goes on, realize that they're talking about how hot God is and how they want to have a sexual relationship with the Lord. Like,
I love that part.
I love how they're like, yeah, we soon realized we weren't going to do that. We just didn't have time to do that. You know?
Yeah. And I love how, like, Cartman in this episode, like, can't tell the difference between loving and being in love with Jesus. Like, that wasn't even part of the scam. Like, he legit couldn't tell the difference.
Oh my gosh. I love, my favorite scene is when they're, or at least one of them, one of my favorite scenes is where they're taking the album cover picture and everything.
Oh, yeah.
They try and be all serious. He's like, no, you gotta look like you don't care.
He's like, why do I have to look all the way over here? Just do it, Token, you black asshole.
Oh my gosh, and the Token, you're black, you can play bass.
Yeah.
I wonder if, because I know Matt plays bass and drums, and Trey plays piano, so I wonder if they, like, supplied, like, the little, kids' music.
Maybe. Yeah. This episode, being about a band, always makes me think of how Matt and Trey call the show the band all the time, because they want to be rock stars.
I know, they literally do have a band. They've played, like, live twice, and they've never done it again. Their band is DVDA, which pretty much everybody knows about. And yeah, one thing I really like is the message in this, and it's like, it talks about downloading music for free and everything, and how they're just kind of like, well, you know, if people really enjoy our music, if you love performing and making your art, you're gonna make enough money as it is. You're making a lot of money. Like, the internet piracy isn't such a big deal. So, and I like, agree with them a lot.
Yeah, me too. I like that they actually didn't condemn downloaded music.
Exactly, which is really cool. Like, that's, especially for a show that's so profitable, like, it just kind of shows how they aren't very, like, greedy. I don't
and I remember, because for the longest time they had, like, SouthParkStudios.com, and you could watch all the episodes for free online. Only recently have they gone to, like, Netflix and Hulu and stuff.
Exactly. Like, they had it on Netflix, and then they had the player, and I think they had an issue with Hulu because it kind of ripped off Hulu, I guess, like the player and everything. They're like, okay, this is too similar, we can sue you. And they're like, okay, well, and they kind of justified it as like, well, a lot of our viewers are already on Hulu and Netflix, so we'll go ahead and...
Yeah.
But I kind of want to know their opinion, because this was before Book of Mormon. I want to know what they think about bootlegs.
Yeah.
Of Book of Mormon, but as somebody who's never seen a bootleg, obviously, Mormon, I just want to know what their opinion. I want to know if they've like changed that opinion specifically for Broadway.
Yeah.
I bet they haven't. I bet they're like, we don't give a fuck. Like,
yeah. Honestly, like, not that anyone cares what I think about that, but I think, like, people who make musicals need to, like, realize that not everyone can, like take time off work and afford to buy tickets and go see a musical. So I think they should be
musicals, you know, tickets are like $300 or $500 for cheap seats.
Yeah, so I think if they want to avoid the bootlegging thing, they should be recording it themselves and then selling it to people. That would make a lot of money.
There's like already a lot of conflict with that, and they're like, well, we wouldn't sell tickets. And see, the thing is, the people who generally write the musicals, most of the time they don't get to pick their pricing. It's the vendors and people who own the theater in general, not necessarily. So I feel like people who write musicals kind of get a bad rep and everything.
No, yeah, I agree. I wasn't trying to, like, rip on them, but I think that people would still still buy tickets. Like, it's about the experience, but, like, not everyone, like, can afford that, you know?
Exactly. But going back to what the episode was.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I get off topic, too. I just kind of want to know their opinion. I don't think it's changed. I really don't think it's changed. I think, which I really respect them for this message, because I feel like any other, you know, studio or any other cartoon would not do this. They would not.
Yeah, because they want to make money,
we'll have our shit for free. We don't care. Like, Matt and Trey aren't in it for the money. They really are. They just want to make people laugh. And, like, I feel like this episode really shows that, because it's a stance that I feel not a lot of people who create would make. So, that's off Matt and Trey.
One last thing about this episode is that I love that Cartman got screwed over, because I always love it when he gets screwed over, but, like, especially in this episode, because he was such an asshole in this episode.
He was. Oh my gosh. But anyway, we'll move on to Grey Dawn. We're almost done, folks.
Okay.
We're getting close.
Aired November 5th, 2003.
The elderly have their driver's licenses taken away, and the AARP retaliates.
This is such a good Red Dawn parody.
Oh,
I enjoyed this episode a lot because I like that movie.
Red Dawn parody.
Yeah.
You know, and Red Dawn, honestly, I've seen both versions of the movie. I've
Me
seen
too.
the old one and the new one. And both of them are just kind of lame. They're not that great of movies. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you like them.
I liked Red Dawn.
I think some parts are just, like, really so... Like, I'm like, are you really supposed to make me believe this? Like, there are some parts that are really shitty.
I think...
It's fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Randy was actually my favorite part of this episode. I loved him being like, oh my god. He was so funny.
I love Grandpa Marsh. I love Grandpa Marsh and everything. He's like, fuck you, Billy.
And, like, the what is it, like, kitchen buffet? What is it called? Country kitchen buffet. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, where I am, I don't even know if Country Kitchen Buffet exists, but I know there's not one near me. But there's fucking Cracker Barrel.
I love the line, Carmen's line, where he's like, did you hear that town where they closed down the country kitchen buffet and all the old people died of starvation?
No joke. I feel like if you close down Cracker Barrel and Ryan's, that fucking buffet place, every old person would die of starvation.
They would die.
They're always fucking there. Or if they don't open until like 10 a.m., I feel like old people would starve, because old people apparently have to eat breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning. funny.
Right, yeah, because they had that whole thing, too, about, like, they can't stop them because old people get up so early.
I think this was so funny. I love the town meeting with all the old people, like,
Yeah.
like, this damn kid stops getting on the sidewalk.
Yeah, and they kept forgetting why they were there.
But definitely my favorite part is, like, it's so small, but it's when the AARP first comes and, like, takes over and everything, and they arm everybody. They arm all the old people and everything, and it's like, Miss Johnson, and she's, like, bedridden and everything. Would you like a musket? We're revolting. It's like, oh, well, I guess so. Why not? That is so funny. And then my other favorite part, I have so many favorite parts. My other favorite part is they're being held hostage. All the adults have, like, their hands behind their heads, and one guy is just like, oh, well, who's going to take a bunch of old people seriously? And the old lady just shoots him in the fucking head.
Yeah. Hardcore.
It makes me laugh so hard.
This was a really funny episode. It's also really smart, too. Like I said, we have a lot of smart episodes this season. It had good commentary, I think, on, like, whether to take away rights if lives are being put in danger. Like, I love that that line that Stan has, where he's talking to his grandpa. He's like, I think old people should have rights, Grandpa. I just don't want to die.
Exactly. See, before my grandparents died, like my granddad on my dad's side, he was a shitty driver when he was young. So imagine he got, like, super old. And my dad has 3 other brothers. There's 4 of them. They were all too much of pussies to take his license away when he was so dangerous. He was such a dangerous driver. But I mean, it was scary. None of us would go in cars with him, and it was finally like their wives, like my mom and my aunts, who were like, "Okay, bye, Granddad. Here's your we're taking your license. We're scared you're gonna kill somebody." And he shut up about it. Like, all my uncles were such pussies, like acting like Randy and everything. Like, no, we have to let him down gently. It's like, fuck you. Like, if they're a threat, like, take that shit away. Like,
Yeah, no kidding.
but I also like how it's like you don't have to treat old people like children.
Right.
You know.
Don't be condescending while you're doing it.
Yeah, you don't have to be a condescending asshole. Like, I feel like you should maybe once you're a certain age need to be retested, have to take the test again. You know.
Yeah.
Just do it like that. So I really love this episode's message.
Me too.
Because I relate to it on a personal level.
Alright, want to go on?
Yeah.
To our special episode.
Special episode because it's our namesake, Casa Bonita. Welcome to Podcasa Bonita.
Yes. Alright, aired November 12th, 2003.
When Cartman is uninvited to Kyle's birthday party. That's also wrong. He was never invited in the
Exactly.
first place. God, Wikipedia, you suck. After an anti-Semitic rant, he endeavors to get back into his good books so he can attend Casa Bonita, his favorite place.
That wasn't like an anti-Semitic rant. It was just like his general anti-Semitic attitude.
Jesus, what the fuck, Wikipedia? You're fucking
Speaking of that, I loved Cartman's whole Jew montage at the beginning.
It's like, God, he really is an anti-Semite. I would have never guessed.
Oh, something I wanted to mention. I think it's really interesting and like a good idea for them to show Cartman getting his comeuppance for treating Kyle badly right now, because he's really ramped up his hate for Kyle this season. Like, he's always disliked Kyle, but this season you could really tell that they're like enemies, you know?
Oh, yeah. Like, I love, like, and this is also another classic Butters and Cartman episode. I feel like the older Butters and Cartman episodes are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, later down the road, sometimes some of the episodes get kind of old, but I feel like season 6 through season 9, like those Butters and Cartman episodes are like prime. They're like prime cut.
This is my favorite Cartman and Butters episode because I think it has all the best elements of those kind of episodes. Like, Butters is so naive and he trusts Cartman because, like, this lie would never work in anyone except for Butters. And then Cartman is so dramatic and all of his theatrics adding to the manipulation and Cartman getting fucked over at the end. Like, it was like the best. And it had all the great elements of a good Cartman Butters episode.
See, this kind of shows that whenever Cartman has something to gain, he's not a lazy person.
Yeah.
He goes to extremes. Like, he could always think, like, oh, he's fat and lazy. Like, no. He gets shit done.
Yeah, when he cares about something, yeah, he'll really go the extra mile.
He will. Like, he will not hold back. Like, I'm like, this is kind of genius. And I love the line, he's just like, Butters, I won't get back in time. You need to go ahead and start repopulating. He's like, what do I have to repopulate with? He's like, well, your wiener.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Me too.
He sees the lady in the dump. He's like, I'm ready to repopulate when you are.
She's like, and I love the part at the end where Carmen like runs into Casa Bonita and like, the cops are all chasing him or whatever. Just because Casa Bonita looks so cool. I've never been there.
Not only is this episode our namesake, but my fun fact for this episode is that like this actually kind of saved the real Podcasa Bonita. Yes, it's a real place.
You mean Casa Bonita? You said Podcasa Bonita.
Oh, shit. Well, which one is really more important?
Right.
The real Casa Bonita, I almost said it again. It got saved from bankruptcy and everything because of this episode. Like, it got, it was going bankrupt and everything, and this episode kind of saved it.
Yeah. And then I really, really, really loved next episode, but I said this one is my favorite because we named our podcast after it.
I think this one might be my favorite out of them, but that's so hard for me because there's another episode that we haven't reviewed yet that I'm like,
our next one is like definitely like would have been my favorite if not for this one.
Actually, I'm not talking about the next one, but we'll go ahead and
I love this one.
All about Mormons.
Aired November 19th, 2003.
Stan befriends a boy and his Mormon family, angering the other boys. Like that.
That's all it says.
These are such shitty summaries.
I love this episode because I'm fucking obsessed with Gary, the little Mormon who's like Stan's boyfriend in this episode.
I love Gary because
Me too.
I wish he was still in the show.
Me too. I love him.
I can see why they haven't used him and everything. I can see why. He's just kind of one of those one-time appearances.
Yeah, one-off character.
He's played by Kyle McCullough, who grew up Mormon. He grew up Mormon. He's one of the writers on South Park. He appears a lot. He voices a lot of characters, especially last season, this season, and I think next season. He does a lot of voices. But I love his little family because, like...
Me too.
I mean, say what you want. I have never personally met a mean Mormon. All Mormons are so nice. Like, their stereotype precedes them,
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're so fucking nice. I mean, if you've met some shitty Mormons, I bet there are some out there, but I haven't met one yet, so...
And I'm surprised Matt and Trey waited so long to do a Mormon episode, considering how much they're, like, obsessed with them.
Oh, yeah, and this is a fun fact, because this was shortly after they had met Bobby Lopez, because they were doing Team America. They were working on Team America, and Avenue Q was just on Broadway. Avenue Q is, for those who don't know, is the first musical Bobby Lopez did. Bobby Lopez worked on Book of Mormon with Matt and Trey in later years. And it's a super funny show that's like basically an adult Sesame Street. And so Matt and Trey went to see it. They're like, shit, it's a puppet musical. That means somebody fucking used marionettes. Shit. No, it was like handheld puppets and everything. And they loved it.
Yeah.
And they were listed in the playbill and everything, like, as special thanks. And they're like, we don't know anybody here. And they met Bobby Lopez, and that's where the gay squad was born.
Book of Mormon Theater Squad.
I'm just going to call them the gay squad.
Okay. Alright. This episode is really sweet. I think it's a good Stan episode. And I think it's so sweet that, like, Stan thinks that the Harrisons are cool while everyone else thinks they're super lame.
What else is really cool about this episode? I love how it is, like, the musical episodes. Like,
right.
I love the Lucy Harris smart.
Yeah.
Smart Martin Harris dumb. Like, that's
I love that part, too.
It's ripping on Mormons, yes. Like, obviously you're going to expect that. But the ending, I feel like I've heard some people who were actually mad about the ending. I'm like, why would you be mad about that? Like, it ends so positively. great ending.
Yes, on that note, like, I fucking love this ending. I agree with Matt and Trey completely. I think Gary was totally in the right, and this wasn't a cop-out at all. I love the ending.
See, and that's what's awesome about this message is it's basically like, yeah, my religion may sound stupid and crazy to an outsider, but it's given me so much, and it fulfills my life, and it teaches me to be a good person. And as long as I'm not hurting anybody, and I'm doing good things because of it, my religion is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can, I hate the atheists who are like, oh, the world would be so much better without religion. It's like, there's so much that technically religion has done, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the same message that's in Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon ends, it's like, wow, you're using something that seems totally crazy and made up, but it's like helping people. It's giving people hope in their lives. So
this episode does a good job with, like, because this I think is like a good representation of like Matt and Trey's religious beliefs, that like it doesn't matter if the stories are kooky and lame, it's like how you use them to live your life, and that's like always a good thing. So it's a really sweet episode.
It is. It's like people always want to immediately point their finger and say Matt and Trey are anti-religion and they're total pro-atheists, like Penn and Teller and the Amazing Atheist and everything, and they're like, no, they're the exact opposite. They're like, we're kind of pro-religion, you know? And they've said it, I'm not just speaking for them, like, they've said it themselves. I love how it's also, like, this is kind of what Book of Mormon was originally going to be. Like, it's a Joseph Smith musical, and then they're like, this is pretty much all we can do, so let's not do that. And they just made it all about Mormons.
Yep.
Oh, I just title dropped.
Oh, I thought you did that on purpose.
Okay,
let's go.
I've talked about that so much. Let's move on to probably my least favorite, just by default, of this season, which is just Butt Out.
Aired December 3rd, 2003.
The town calls in Rob Reiner to combat the spread of cigarettes among the children after the boys are caught smoking.
I totally relate to the boys in this episode, because I remember growing up in high school, and like all these anti-drug commercials on TV are like so lame. It like makes me want to do drugs out of spite, you know?
See, I know.
They're
like,
so bad.
They had the meth not even once people come in when I was in 8th grade. I'm like, this is kind of lame. Like, I'm planning on doing meth, dude. Like,
now I'm definitely gonna.
No, I'm definitely gonna do meth. Like, no, but, well, my cousin did. Whoops, sorry. No, I kind of, this isn't my favorite just because, like, I feel like it's so bitter. Like, it's like really kind of bitter, hammering in the message. That may just be me. Like, just, I'm not, like, pro-cigarette. I'm kind of, like, do it if you fucking want to.
I think the message, they did a good job, like, in the tobacco company tour. I think that was a good way to get that across, and I agree.
Yeah. But it's also kind of like, you know, what, I think this episode is just okay. I don't hate it. It's just not my favorite.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of this episode is actually, like, all that self-awareness from Kyle, where he's like, oh, no, if we do this, the town's gonna get all heated up, and then I'm gonna have to give a speech, and blah, 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 and then it does happen.
I love it, because at the end, my favorite line is just like, Stan's like, see, we did learn something, and he's like, and Kyle's like, no, we didn't.
Right.
I really like
Kyle's so wise, I love him.
That's really all I have to say about that one. I don't really have a fun fact.
What else do I have to say? I guess I love the like extreme contrast between Rob Reiner and the tobacco company, especially because like Reiner represents everything he accuses them of being. So he's like really transparent in the episode. Where you're like, you could tell he's full of shit, or he's full of goo actually.
Like goo. Oh my goo. That is really funny. The way he says my goo.
Right. Yeah.
You just filled him full of goo. Like,
all right, wanna go
I
on?
don't know if they have anything personal against Rob. Well, I know Rob Reiner was like trying to get, you know, crazy anti-smoking laws, and it's like, okay, with people's personal lives, they should be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And I know Matt was a smoker. He was a smoker, but he quit, like, I think really long before this episode. He quit a long time before this episode. So I guess, like, it comes from like a personal stance for them. So anyway, that's all I have to say. We're gonna move on to definitely one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, I love this episode so much. Raisins.
Aired December 10th, 2003. 2003. Oh, sorry.
Stan becomes a goth after Wendy breaks up with him. Meanwhile, Butters falls for Lexus, a waitress at a Hooters restaurant for kids called Raisins.
Yeah, Raisins is like such a disturbing restaurant.
See, okay, my reality gets so suspended with this episode. Like, I'll watch it like normal, and then after I watch it, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, that broke like every child labor law.
Yeah.
Every like child prostitution law. Like,
no kidding.
Like, I know it's a joke and everything.
Yeah.
That's how come this episode is so good, because it like suspends your reality
Right.
until after you watch it, and you're like, well, damn, that was really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
I love how all the waitresses are named after cars.
Yeah, right.
Like this Porsche,
Mercedes, yeah. I like the part at the beginning where Bebe breaks up with Stan for Wendy or whatever, and he's like so mad. He's like, "What did I do wrong? I haven't talked to Wendy for weeks." I'm like, "That's probably why she's dumping you, Stan. You haven't talked to her for weeks."
I know, that's what that token talks to her.
Yeah, he fulfills her needs.
I love how it says Stan becomes goth, because honestly, he didn't become goth. He became fucking emo.
Right, Stan's an emo.
He's a little bitch in this episode, but that's what I love. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite jokes. And I think my dad saw this joke. Like, it's like, how do you get a girl to like you? And baby, it's like, you stand outside the window and it's like, you're Gabriel, and it's not anything cute. It's just like, shot the I don't know what it's
Right,
called.
yeah, it's totally not a romantic song.
Like, that made my dad he came in, like, he just heard that song, and he was like, yeah, that's a good song. I'm like, you don't get the joke.
Like, taking Dad, no.
Dad.
I love this episode because it introduces the goth kids, who I fucking love.
Oh my gosh, I love the goth kids.
They're so awesome.
The goth kids episode.
My favorite joke of the whole episode is when Kyle comes into the Denny's and he's all pissed off at Stan or whatever. And then he's like, "Oh, no, goth kids, like, you don't know what pain is." And he's like, you know what pain is. Go try living in a third world country. He's like, "I'm not gonna live in a third world country without a conformist."
Oh my god. I love it. It's like, if you want to be a non-conformist, you have to dress like us and talk and like the same stuff we
Yeah,
do.
that's all I gotta do.
And see, like, I was like, that's exactly what I was like.
I love Stan's goth voice. It was so funny.
His name is fucking Raven.
I know.
Fucking Raven Simone.
Alright, I don't have a lot to say about the Butter storyline, except for, like, the message at the end where he, like, breaks Stan out of his depression, where he's like, "I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm really happy that something can make me feel that sad. It makes me feel alive." Butters is really wise in this episode, and his storyline overall didn't do much for me, except for the payoff at the end.
See, I thought his storyline was super funny, and this episode, every time I watch it, I kind of always forget about that speech, but to me, I'm like, that is a really awesome message, because,
Yeah.
you know, it's not a political message,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like everything else.
Yeah, talking about depression, basically.
It's really talking about sadness and everything, and, like, it's kind of like an Inside Out moment. If you've ever seen Pixar's Inside Out, it's like, you kind of need to take the sadness, and I'm like, they explain sadness in a way that I've never been able to hear from anybody else or anything else, where it's like, yeah, I'm sad, but at the same time, it's kind of amazing that something can make me feel this bad, because it means I felt something amazing before.
Right.
Like, you gotta take it
I
good
agree.
with the bad.
Mhm.
And I'm like, God damn, I really love the message, because it's something you wouldn't expect to hear from a South Park episode.
Yeah. People always underestimate
It's a
South
big
Park.
political message.
Yeah, and I always, like, kind of point them to this episode when they do that.
But yeah, let's go on to the last episode, which this episode that we're going to talk about will be featured on something that we'll talk about later.
Okay, just announce the episode, Shirley.
It's Christmas in Canada!
Alright, aired December 17th, 2003.
Kyle and the boys fly to Canada during Christmas time to see the Canadian Prime Minister after Ike's biological parents take him away. See, that's how you do
A good,
something.
yeah.
That actually makes sense.
Alright. I think that the lengths that Kyle will go to for Ike is absolutely adorable. I love the Broflovski bros.
I love the Broflovski bros. Like, Kyle really, really, really cares for Ike. Like, it's not just, you know, a normal brother relationship that you'd see
Yeah, he really like always goes out of his way to watch out for him, which I like.
Yeah, especially because it's actually character development because originally he was just like he doesn't have my same blood like in Ike's Wee Wee. Like,
yeah, and then he'll kick the baby thing.
The baby penis, like.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like this episode. And I think it's because of the whole Ike story and everything. I love Ike, but I love the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, it works so well.
I remember I watched this again around the time I was in high school and I was doing the Wizard of Oz. It was fucking awful and I hated every second of it. But I'm like, God damn, I wish we could have done this version of Wizard of Oz. So much better. Follow the only road. Like,
yeah.
Really funny.
I love that they did that because it's like such a good way of trying to establish Canada as being like foreign and strange, which they've kind of done with like the Flappy Heads, but like they did it this way is like showing the land like that. They did a good job.
It is. I love any episode with Canadians. Like,
right, me too.
Canadians are the best.
I love them. Saddam Hussein returns to Canada.
Oh, and I know it's terrible, but I love whenever Saddam Hussein is in.
Me too.
He hasn't been in a show, I think. No, he has. I think no.
He was in the Ladder to Heaven one. Where he was building the bomb in heaven.
I think this is the most recent time he's been in South Park, so he hasn't been in for like years.
Yeah. And I think my favorite.
I mean, he's kind of irrelevant now because he's
right.
been for so long.
I think my favorite part of the whole episode is the part at the end where Carmen gets pissed and he tries to like throw down with Kyle and Kyle doesn't even beat the shit out of him. He just like barely hits him and he wails like a little bitch.
Does a spot-on impression of Kyle's like she sounds just like him. It's so funny.
like crying at the end.
And then
he really deserved that.
His adventure and everything.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I think this whole season in general was just like a total hit. And
Very good, yes.
I always forget how really good this season is until I actually sit down and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I think of really good seasons, I automatically think of season 5 and season 8. And I'm like, this is definitely up there.
Yeah, it's a good season. I agree. Because I had a really hard time like picking a favorite this episode or this season.
I know, because there's just a huge string
Mm-hmm.
of like awesome episodes. But with that, we're gonna conclude talking about season 7.
Yes.
Way too fucking long.
And now we're gonna go on to the question we got from one of our commenters.
Which we're so excited about.
Yes, please comment on our videos.
Rachel sent me like a huge message like, dude, we got a message, we got a question.
I was so excited.
We're excited. So,
Alright, so the question is, what was the first South Park episode you watched? Do you want to start, Julie?
yeah, I'm kind of gonna answer this in 2 ways. My first full episode is kind of different from the way I was exposed to South Park. My first exposure to South Park was through Mr. Hankey's Christmas Classics, where I just kind of knew the Mr. Hankey, the Christmas Pooh song, because my friend had the album and everything. So that was technically kind of my first episode, but I only saw clips of it. But my first full episode, I think, was season 12, an elementary school musical. I think that was the first one because it was around the time I was one of those kids who loved High School Musical, and I still love High School Musical.
Me too, actually.
Like I feel like that show. I will talk about it when we get there, but that's such like a generational thing.
Right.
Everybody who grew up around that time knows High School Musical.
Exactly.
But I remember being, I think it was 5th or 6th grade when that show came out, and somebody was just like, dude, South Park, like, I had heard the name South Park before, but they're like, South Park made fun of High School Musical, and it's really bad. I'm like, I need to see it so I can get mad at it. And I went when they had South Park Studios and everything, and I watched it. I'm like, that was really funny.
Right.
Like, I like that. But of course I didn't start watching it until I was older, but, like that was my first episode. What about you, Rachel?
Alright, Alright, the first episode I ever watched was Man Bear Pig. I was 11.
That's my favorite episode.
And I watched it with my dad, because I remember I went to my dad's house. Me and my brother both did. We went to his apartment, because it was like just after they got divorced. And my brother went to bed. He was younger. And my dad was like, hey, you want to watch this show? I've never seen it before. But I'm like, okay. So we both watched it. And we both really enjoyed it. And I lost my mind after that episode. I thought it was, like, the funniest half-hour of television I'd ever seen. And I was, like, obsessed immediately. And, like, 8 years later, I'm still obsessed. But, like, and I kept wanting to watch more and more episodes of South Park. But, like, the more episodes we watched together, like, the more my dad realized that he fucked up. He's like, oh, this is bad. I shouldn't have let my 11-year-old daughter watch this. But it was, like, too late at that point. I was so into it, and to this day, I'm still obsessed with South Park. So that's my story.
I love this. Thank you for the question.
Yeah,
dude.
and I still get super sentimental whenever I watch Man Bear Pig. I'm like, oh my god, that was my first episode.
Like, that's adorable. Hold on, I'm gonna look up the dude's username so we can thank him. Do you have it? Who's the guy's username? I want to thank him.
I think it's that guy. Let me look.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, that guy. We so appreciate it. Y'all who are listening, please send in questions. We love answering them.
Yeah.
Great questions about anything. You know, we're down to answer them.
Yes, we for sure are. And we have an announcement to make before we go.
We do. We both set up a poll. We're going to have a special episode of Podcasa Bonita about all of the South Park Christmas specials. I think we're going to call it South Park Christmas Countdown.
Something like that.
I've already made the poll. Probably a ton of you have already voted in it.
Yeah, I'll put it in below again.
Yeah, we're going to have in the description, we're going to have a link to the poll. But on December 17th, I think we're recording. It may not be uploaded that day, but December 17th, we're going to have our special podcast doing a countdown of the favorite Christmas episodes that you guys voted for. Mm-hmm. We want your opinion, and we're going to collect the results and read them off to you guys. Only I see the results. Even Rachel.
Not even me. I know.
So, we're just going to have a big-ass, fun Christmas special.
Yes,
episode.
it'll be lots of fun.
Everybody needs a Christmas special.
Yeah. And it'll be recorded the day before we record our Season 8 podcast, so you'll get both of those at the same time, probably, because I'll probably put it up at the same time.
That's our Christmas present to you.
Yes.
You get a double feature.
We were very excited, so please go vote. You can vote 3 times, right? Or for 3 episodes?
Well, what we want you to do is we want you to pick your top 3 favorites.
Okay.
You can vote as many times as you want, but pick at least 3.
Yes.
Please no more than 3. You can pick less than 3 if you want, but no more than 3 episodes. Your top 3, and we'll spit out the results. You know, we'll count down from least favorite to most favorite. And
okay.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm ready to do that episode.
Me too.
I'm really excited about it.
All right, well, that's all we have for Season 7. Please comment, leave us...
Way too fucking
leave us questions, suggestions, comments, or tell us if you want to be a guest star. We would love to have you.
Yes, and don't forget to vote for your favorite Christmas episode.
All right. Goodbye.